the members opposite that there's so much in this bill that's bad. They could have redone their budget and actually used the budget to actually indicate what the state of the province's financial situation was, to use conventional accounting practices or whatever the term that they use. Certainly doesn't account for the $500 million in deferred maintenance on the schools in this province, and that's something that nobody can escape from. And I know that the people in Nova Scotia deserve to get a better accounting than they're getting. With that, Mr. Speaker, I'll hand my time or hand the debate to another member.
The member for Cape Breton, the Lakes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, Mr. Speaker, I think it's obvious the Financial Measures Act is before this House, and there's been a lot of debate over this particular act. So I believe it's important for me to rise in my place and express why I voted for this budget and why I am going to vote in favor of this act this evening. There are many aspects, Mr. Speaker, to the legislation, but I want to talk about the most important point first, and that is the tax cut. And I am speaking in favor of the tax cut, Mr. Speaker, and I am in favor of Nova Scotians getting more of their tax dollars back in their own pockets. And I am in favor of lowering taxes, and I am in support of Nova Scotia becoming more competitive. And Mr. Speaker, you know, it leaves me to question who wouldn't be in favor of these things. And how can, you know, some members here on this side of the House go back into their constituencies and say you're not in favor of giving money back to your constituents, especially if it's their own money. And Mr. Speaker, if you look at the increases since 1999, when I was elected to this House, I mean, the people that I represent pay more for everything from airplane tickets to postal stamps. So, Mr. Speaker, I believe that the $155 will come in handy for many of the people that I represent. If this government produced two balanced budgets and is collecting more revenue from personal income taxes than ever before, then why not put money back into the hands of hard-working Nova Scotians? People in my constituency, I believe, are looking forward to receiving this $155, and I expect most of them will spend it right in Cape Breton, Mr. Speaker. And this will be good for the economy, not only the local economy in my constituency, but the economy on Cape Breton Island as a whole. And next year, when the income tax rates will be reduced, Cape Bretoners will have more money to spend on their families and in their communities. And Mr. Speaker, I believe that's a positive step in the right direction. I can't, for the life of me, stand here, sit here and vote to allow our province to fall behind every other province in this country. And that's what will happen if this act, the Financial Measures Act, does not clear this House, Mr. Speaker. How can we be proud of being the only province that has not cut income taxes in the past few years? Where would that leave us? What impact would that have on our economy here in Nova Scotia? I don't want I would suggest that this is a positive measure that will allow our province to move forward and not to fall behind. I believe our economy is good, it's getting better, and I hope it gets better. More money in people's pockets, Mr. Speaker, I believe will help get it better. Being more competitive will help our economy. And, you know, can we afford not to vote for this act? Do we want to continue being the only province to give not to give its people a tax cut. We want to look good to people who may want to move here from outside the province, Mr. Speaker, and this may be one incentive that at least they'll look upon Nova Scotia on even par with other provinces in Canada. The Finance Minister indicates that the tax cut will improve our competitive position and our future economic growth, and I do agree with that statement. How can we not be in favor of that, Mr. Speaker? If we can have a balanced budget and still cut income taxes, that's got to be a good thing. It's got to be. And I would, suggest to the members of the House to reconsider what I'm hearing them say. I believe that the people that live in their constituencies as well as in my constituency, that these Nova Scotians deserve a tax break, just like any other Canadian that has enjoyed tax breaks in the last few years, Mr. Speaker. Now, there's good news in this budget, Mr. Speaker. It's not all doom and gloom, in my opinion, at least. And I just wanna touch on a couple of issues. I know the hour of debate is growing, and my time just started. So, Mr. Speaker, Nova Scotia continues to invest in its capital projects. And it's obvious the government is exposed what their capital projects are. The capital budget this year, 2003-2004, is the total of $250 million, and it's an increase of $31 million, or a 14.2% increase from last year. Investments in roads, bridges, ferries, land, and equipment purchases are higher than the previous year, with a budget of $106.2 million, an increase of $16 million over last year. This includes an additional $11 million to complete a 3-year, $31 million commitment that the government has committed to increase funding for road improvements. And Mr. Speaker, that is what my constituents want to hear. We want to hear about road improvements, rural areas with real road commitments and improvements, and a plan to ensure that rural areas receive the attention that is necessary. The Department of Transportation will spend $10 million to improve provincially owned buildings across the province, which is important, Mr. Speaker, to keep up the maintenance on these facilities to ensure that in future years the overhead costs are the lowest that they can possibly be. Capital spending in the Department of Education, that's another issue that's important to my constituents. It's increasing to a total of $93.9 million, an increase of $3 million, or 3.3% over last year. This includes $62 million for 8 new schools, $18.5 million for additions to schools and alterations to existing elementary and high schools, $9 million for the expansion of Nova Scotia Community College, and $4.6 million for school buses. The province's this year, the budget also includes $10.8 million for the Department of Justice, and I believe, Mr. Speaker, that would be for the Yarmouth Correctional Centre and Port Hawkesbury Courthouse, which are two important facilities throughout the province. $7.7 million will go for the Department of Health in purchasing ambulances and hospital information systems.
Order, please. The honourable member for Sackville-Beaverbank.
Mr. Speaker, if I may be permitted to do an introduction?
The honourable member allow for an introduction.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes, the honourable member Sackville-Beaverbank on the introduction.
First, I want to thank the member from Cape Breton and the Lakes for allowing me to do this introduction. Today, in the Speaker's Gallery opposite, we have a number of constituents from Sackville-Beaverbank and Sackville-Cobequid representing the 8th Sackville Scout Group and the 2nd Beaverbank Scout Troop. We have with us today Leader Dale Roddick, Parent Bernie Whalen. We have Scout Sean Roddick, Brian Whalen, and Kelly McNeil. If I could ask the members to give the usual warm welcome to our visitors. Thank you.
Thank you. We certainly welcome our special guests to the gallery this evening and hope they enjoy the proceedings. And welcome, boys. Thank you. Gentleman member, Cape Breton Lakes has the floor.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I indicated, $7.7 million are allotted for ambulances and the health and information system for hospitals. Also, which is important to my riding, I believe, is a $5.5 million for the Department of Tourism and Culture. It's a capital improvements to 3 resorts, actually, and one including the Celtic Lodge in English. And after the next election, I hope to have a direct interest into that lodge. And I believe that's a good position. It's a good issue, and it's a good one to move forward, and it's positive. Mr. Speaker, another issue within my constituency for the last 3 years has been when medical appointments are required here in Halifax. The wait times are just exorbitant. It's just, the length times are they're just terrible. There's no way to describe them. But Nova Scotia, this government, the finance minister has come forward with a plan which will soon have faster access to tests and surgeries here in Halifax. And there's approximately $5 million reinvested into the healthcare system for these purposes. And the funding will be used to hire more staff and purchase equipment for diagnostic tests and surgeries for cardiac patients from all across Nova Scotia. So, Mr. Speaker, that's important. That's an important issue to the residents of Cape Breton Lakes, whom I've continually received calls over the past 3.5 years in regard to delays in appointment times here in Halifax. Also, more patients. And, Mr. Speaker, I have a direct knowledge that I'm convinced that this will have a positive impact on Nova Scotia. More patients who need tests from hospitals across the province will be transferred here in Nova Scotia by the air ambulance. Now, Mr. Speaker, approximately $400,000 is being invested to get perhaps as many as 200 more patients here to Halifax and return to their local hospitals and their families much more quicker. This is a positive, very positive, Mr. Speaker. I believe good positive news for my constituency and the people I represent, whom particularly are waiting for appointments or surgeries here in Halifax. And I have to recognize that the residents I represent, I believe, are in need of this service. Community supports for adults is another issue, Mr. Speaker. And this government has demonstrated its commitment to improving the supports for Nova Scotians with disabilities and long-term mental illnesses. And they have increased the community supports for adults budget by $12.8 million this year. And, Mr. Speaker, community supports for adults provides a wide range of services, including homes for special care, small option homes, supervised apartments, adult residential centers, regional rehabilitation centers, adult service centers. There's many more, Mr. Speaker. I feel this is also positive and will have a positive impact on Nova Scotia. The debt management, of course. Debt is something that I have a personal concern about. I'm really concerned about how governments borrow money, and not just. I came from a municipal world. I was always concerned about borrowing money as a municipal unit, and since I've become a provincial representative, I'm really very concerned about whether my grandkids or their children will have health care here in this province because of the money we owe. And when we witness that there's more money being spent to service the debt here in this province than we spend on education, and I think it's pretty clear that we recognize that there is a problem. And Mr. Speaker, it's not fair for me to stand here and blame this government for the whole debt problem in this province, and certainly not this finance minister. And I believe since at least in the last 2 years, he has made a very strong effort into bringing the finances of this province under control. And to some extent, Mr. Speaker, he's succeeding. He is succeeding. Now, I know some people don't want me to say that or hear that, but that is my honest opinion, and I believe after watching for 3.5 years that the government is making positive steps. Now, it may be good news that the finance minister is going home and is not reoffering in the next election, but that is not my opinion, Mr. Speaker. I believe that the finance minister has put a strong effort in, and I believe that government in particular is going to miss that finance minister when he leaves. And I honestly do believe they have big shoes to fill, particularly when after the next election, if they're lucky enough, of course, to form the government again after the next election. Now, Mr. Speaker, I'll tell you 2 points that I have to agree that the minister is moving forward in, and one is he has provided 2 successive balanced budgets. Now, that's clear, and it's accountants have accepted this. I mean, I'm not a licensed accountant, and I can only accept the opinions that are provided to me, and that everything I can find according to the financial sheets is that, this government is having some success in balancing the budgets from year to year. And it's obvious that the government is on the right path. In the past 3 years, as a result of careful, controlled spending, I believe, in a growing economy, one of the most important economic indicators, which shows our net debt, or net direct debt, as the percentage of the province's overall economic activity, has improved. What this means is that the burden of debt carried by taxpayers is less onerous. We have a greater ability to repay our debt. And Mr. Speaker, that is a very important item to have on your side when you're dealing with the type of debt and the amount of debt that this government has obviously been forced to deal with since it came to power in 1999. Now, the ratio to net debt, it shows that the province's strategy of managing the debt is working. Mr. Speaker, I'm not going to get into too much about the $155 rebates. I believe most of the people that I represent will receive that. As I indicated earlier, they've experienced increases from anything from airline tickets to postal stamps. I believe, you can look at insurance rates, power rates. Yes, fees have increased by the government. I mean, it's obvious the government had to impose their direction and create a fee structure that will be accepted or rejected by Nova Scotians, But it is clear that this finance minister has put a plan in place that is having an impact into the finances here in this province. And it's important, I believe, to recognize his efforts. The foreign currency has been reduced, Mr. Speaker, to 20%, 18 months ahead of schedule. Now that is, that's pretty positive. It's a positive step in the right direction for this government. I mean, I know the government has taken heed on a lot of different issues, and I think it's fair to recognize that, they're standing pat in their direction that they want to go in, but it's important to recognize that it's working. And it is having this impact. When you can reduce the foreign currency by 20% 18 months ahead of time, I mean, that'll tell you just exactly, really provide some confidence, at least to me, to the people in charge of the books. Now, Mr. Speaker, students, our young people are our greatest assets. That's obvious. And Mr. Speaker, $5.1 million has been earmarked for student debt reduction, and $6 billion more for universities. And Mr. Speaker, a new $5.1 million student debt reduction program will help post-secondary students manage their debt. And the program is designed to be flexible for many ways in which students complete their post-secondary education. It aims to help the greatest number of students possible with the resources that particular government has to deal with. While half of our students have their own means of financing their post-secondary education, there are approximately 18,000 students each year who receive Canada student loans. And about 98 of these students also receive Nova Scotia loans, Mr. Speaker. And these are the students who are in greatest need of the financial assistance. And they are also the students who have the higher debt loads upon graduation. And the statistics indicate that very clearly. The amount of the debt reduction will change for each year of the loan, Mr. Speaker. For example, if a university student has loans and studies for 4 years, he or she will receive 1.5% of the debt reduction for the first year, 25% for the second, 35% for the third, and 45% for the fourth. If the student studies for another year and has a loan, he or she would get 15% for that fifth year. Mr. Speaker, that, in my opinion, is a reasonable plan. It's it's at least a plan and an effort to assist our students. And our greatest asset, there's no doubt, our youth are our greatest asset. So the government has come forward with a plan. And they've listened to the students in this province. And it's obvious, and I feel, that this plan will have a positive impact, given some time to allow it to work. Mr. Speaker, another issue where I've received a lot of calls in the last 3 years is in regard to legal aid. Nova Scotians who need a lawyer but can't afford a lawyer, of course, need from time to time the legal assistance. And Mr. Speaker, an additional $3 million has been put into the Nova Scotia legal aid. And this additional funding, Mr. Speaker, is a very positive step for the people that I represent, I believe, at least. And, it's important to recognize that successive governments, including the federal government, have decreased payments in regard to legal aid in this province. I believe the federal government cut approximately $50,000, Mr. Speaker, at one point in time. And Mr. Speaker, also another important issue is the municipal equalization grant system process. Mr. Speaker, I represent an area in Cape Breton, of course, Cape Breton, the Lakes, and Cape Breton is a poorer area of the region of this province, and I believe it's a positive step with the former municipal affairs minister listened to the municipalities. They took in some consultation with the UNSM. They discussed it. I know the minister did discuss with individual municipal units a plan in regard to Nova Scotia Power and the payment to the municipalities, and the payments have increased. Now the payments by Nova Scotia Power to the municipalities will increase by $4.6 million to a total of $31 million. 1.8 of this money will be paid to municipalities that are home to major NSP properties, and 2.8 million will be put to use to fund municipal equalization. The province with this plan, Mr. Speaker, is ensuring that municipalities receive no less equalization in this year than they did in the previous year. And that is important for the property taxpayers that I represent back at home. So the last thing that I want to see is another property tax increase in my area. And the regional municipality down there, in a lot of ways, have their hands tied, and their tax base is eroding. It's not the greatest in the province. And this particular issue here goes a long way to sustaining that municipal unit, particularly without increasing property taxes. And that is important to the people that I represent. Mr. Speaker, of the $1.8 million to be paid to municipalities with major NSP components, the Cape Breton Regional Municipality received $704,000. Very important issue. And one that I believe the mayor of the CBRM is on record as endorsing. Now, Mr. Speaker, in reviewing all the statistics in regard to this, the increased payments for Nova Scotia Power, it doesn't. I'd be surprised to see if any rate increases are imposed by Nova Scotia Power because of this issue. Because, when they had projected their bill last year at the rate application of the Utility and Review Board, it did not indicate any power or rate increases as a result of this issue. So I don't see that. I think that's a good plan. I think the minister, the finance minister, obviously got together on the same page, and municipalities actually did. Yep. Oh, 15. That was a very important issue for this government to conquer, Mr. Speaker, and it was one that they inherited, by the way, that they in '99 when they came to power, that this problem existed, and the government took it on itself, and they conquered the problem, I believe, at least for today. Mr. Speaker, our roads and bridges, that's a very important issue for me, particularly in rural Nova Scotia, and the people that I represent, at least, they're really interested in the Department of Transportation and Public Works budget. And for the fourth consecutive year, Mr. Speaker, this government is increasing its capital investments in roads, bridges, and ferries right across Nova Scotia, with the $106.2 million. With $106.2 million, an increase of $16 million over the last year. That's a significant amount of money, Mr. Speaker. The province has made a commitment, the finance minister has made a commitment to continue to dictate all the funds raised by last year's 2-cent per liter tax increase to capital road construction. And the estimate will generate approximately $25 million this year to reinvest in safer, better roads throughout Nova Scotia. And Mr. Speaker, it has to be positive news for rural Nova Scotia. Mr. Speaker, transportation is one of the keys to economic prosperity here and community development in Nova Scotia. A strong transportation network sets the stage for the safe movement of people and goods. It also supports regional, national, and international trade. Roads are important, Mr. Speaker. Bridges. You know, bridges will also receive more attention with a promised $4 million in capital funds for this year. One of the ferries will be replaced. I believe that must be one of the ferries on the main lane. I'm not familiar with the name, so. There's also money for maintenance, especially for local roads. And Mr. Speaker, that is a major issue, particularly in my area, and I know right throughout rural Nova Scotia. And particularly, I know I can stand here comfortably and say rural Cape Breton in particular, because I've been on those roads, and they're just they're unreal. They're unbelievable. But this government has earmarked more money for maintenance, and particularly on local roads. The Road Improvement Money Program invests $10 million this year in rural roads across the province. And hopefully this will mean improved shoulders, road shoulders, and ditches, and asphalt patching, and gravel upgrading, and shoulder work, and guardrail replacement, hopefully. And that's $10 million that is, it's really a necessity for this province. Drinking water is another issue I'd like to speak about, Mr. Speaker, particularly representing an area like Coxeat in Westbelt that has a water supply with cancer-causing elements in it. And I've discussed the issue with the minister several times, and with the finance minister. And I have to give the government credit. They've come up with a plan to deal with the protection of our drinking water. And through the provincial drinking water strategy, $800,000 will be spent this year. And the government continues to work with municipalities, which is important, and I know that to be true, Mr. Speaker, particularly in the CBRM, where the government is in regular contact with administration personnel down there to deal with the issues that are important, particularly water issues that are important to that municipality. And that Coxeat is included in the planning for new water treatment, and I believe this is a major positive step for my riding, and that's another reason why I voted for the budget. Mr. Speaker, it's all since 9/11. I think it's very clear that emergency response is vital to any community throughout not only Nova Scotia but throughout the entire country, the world, in fact. The Office of the Fire Marshal is investing $190,000 more to train and equip first responders to deal with hazardous materials. Another $71,000 has been committed by the Emergency Measures Organization to hire a crucial infrastructure coordinator. This, of course, complements the $566,000 that has been invested by the federal government for these purposes, Mr. Speaker. They go hand in hand with each other, and I believe a good, positive step for at least the firefighters that I represent. Mr. Speaker, $33 million more to enhance seniors programs. Seniors programs have been devastated since I've come into power, and since I've been elected in '99, I've received many calls from concerned residents and constituents in regard to seniors issues, and I see this as a positive step. It's at least some direction to deal with the issues that affect seniors. This year, an additional $33.1 million will be invested to protect the quality of nursing homes and home care, expand access to home care, and make nursing homes and drugs more affordable for Nova Scotia seniors. The long-term care budget will increase by $18.1 million, Mr. Speaker, to a total of $222.5 million this year. Of that amount, $8.5 million is being invested to continue government's efforts to reduce the cost of nursing homes for seniors. That is a positive step, Mr. Speaker. $9.6 billion is being used to invest to meet increased costs and protect the quality of care for seniors. The budget contains $9.7 million to meet this government's commitment to freeze the premium and co-pay within the Seniors Pharmacare Program, major issue for seniors that I represent, Mr. Speaker. As well, the co-pay will be capped at a maximum of $30 for prescriptions, and that's at least a cap, Mr. Speaker. It may be a little high, uncomfortable with the amount. However, it's a cap. This means that seniors will continue to pay 33% of individual prescription costs, but to a maximum of $30 per prescription. For example, seniors now pay $49.50 for a prescription that costs $150. Starting April 1st, hopefully, they will only pay $30, a saving of $19.20. Mr. Speaker, that's $19.50 in the pockets of my residents, and I feel that they can find out a real purpose for that money, put it into a government drug plan. And I'll go back to the postage stamps and the postage stamps increases and everything from postage stamps to airplane tickets. Everything has increased, Mr. Speaker. So that $19.50 will go a little way in assisting them, hopefully, in other struggles that they have in their daily life. Mr. Speaker, the small business, and this is good news. This is good news for at least the business people that I spoke to over the weekend at back of my riding, and I visited several, spoke to them about this issue, and they think it's positive. And small businesses in Nova Scotia will have more room to earn taxable income before moving to a higher tax rate. And that's effective this year. Small business tax, which I believe is set the limit is around 5%, and gets a little complicated, Mr. Speaker. But when you look at the fact that businesses support this initiative, I believe it could become very positive for the businesses in the riding. Mr. Speaker, tax relief. Lower personal income taxes, and I'm not going to say too much more this evening. I think there's at least one more speaker, I believe. Mr. Speaker, lower personal income taxes in other jurisdictions have proven to build stronger economies. Mr. Speaker, Nova Scotia taxpayers will save an estimated $147 million in 2004 because of lower personal income taxes. They will save another estimated $68 million from a one-time tax rebate of $155. Now, the refund will ensure that the tax deductions make it to the hands of individual Nova Scotians as soon as possible. And that's important, Mr. Speaker. The lower tax rates also mean more than 3,500 Nova Scotians will no longer pay personal income taxes. Tax relief is an important plan to make Nova Scotia, can be an attractive plan, and this government is obviously attempting to put that plan to work. Mr. Speaker, when I spoke to the Minister of Education the other day, I have many, many requests for special aids, requests for students throughout the school system. I've spoken to staff, administrative staff at the Cape Breton Regional Victoria School Board, and they indicate, particularly one case in particular, and I know the minister is working on the case down in Ingonish at the moment. with a school down there with an individual that requires special aid. And this particular individual child has some learning disabilities and some, it's not a bad thing, really. She just needs some special aid. So I asked the minister the other day what this budget would mean for, teachers' aides throughout the Victoria Regional School Board. The minister indicates it should add up to more teachers' aides. And Mr. Speaker, I know the request there for teachers' aides is quite high. And I don't know if exactly every child will get a teacher's aide next year, but at least more next year will get teacher's aides than last year. That's an improvement. Mr. Speaker, the Northside General Hospital continually, for 3 years, has been under threat of closing the emergency ward because of staffing and staffing issues mainly. I spoke to the minister. The minister indicates that the increased spending in health care should deal with these issues at this particular facility, as well as neighboring facilities like Buchanan Memorial and the hospital in neighboring Victoria and Brack, and there's Richmond, there's hospitals throughout. And this budget should have a positive impact on those issues facing those facilities, Mr. Speaker. I guess we have to wait a couple of months to see if that impact is positive or not. But I feel good about the direction that the government is going in. I'm certainly no scholar, but I have been around politics 12 years. And I have to give the minister and the premier and the front lines credit over there. They took a lot of heat. And this, although it may not be a perfect budget, Mr. Speaker, and there may be a budget that could be produced that is better, I'm not suggesting that. This is a reasonable and decent budget under the circumstances in this province. That's why I'm voting for it, and I believe that's why the people in my constituency will vote for it come Election Day. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I will take my place. Thank you.
If I recognize the Honourable Minister of Finance, to close debate on bill. Order, please. Order, please. Yeah. Order, please. Order, please. The no. Order, please. The House is the motion for second reading has already been introduced for Bill 36. We're now on the previous question. House ready for the question on the recorded vote to be called on the previous question. Or we'll ring the bells until whips are satisfied. Order, please. Whip satisfied? Order, please. Whip satisfied? Yes. Whip satisfied? Recorded vote has been called on the previous question. Moved by the Honourable Government House Leader. Is House ready for the question? All those in favour say aye. Counterminded nay. Motion is carried. The order, please. The The motion is now on second reading of Bill 36. Is the House ready for the question? All those in favor, call for a recorded vote. Recorded vote has been called for. Is the House ready? The clerks will call the roll. Those in favor will say aye. Contrary-minded, nay.
Mr. Rodney McDonald.
Yes.
Mr. Christie.
Absent.
Mr. Baker.
Absent.
Mr. Russell.
Yes.
Mr. Ham.
Absent.
Mr. LeBlanc.
We.
Mr. Muir.
Yes.
Ms. Purvis.
Absent.
Mr. Fage. Absent. Mr. Balser.
Yes.
Mr. Parent.
Yes.
Ms. McGraw.
Yes.
Mr. Ron Chisholm.
Yes.
Mr. Olive.
Yes.
Mr. Morse.
Yes.
Mr. McIsaac.
Absent.
Mr. Clark.
Absent.
Mr. DeWolf.
Yes.
Mr. Taylor.
Yes.
Mr. Dux.
Yes.
Mr. Langell.
Absent.
Mr. Chataway.
Yes.
Mr. Hinsby.
Yes.
Miss Bailey.
Yes.
Mr. Carey.
Yes.
Mr. Morash.
Yes.
Mr. Chipman.
Absent.
Mr. Burnett.
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Hurlbert.
Yes.
Mr. Corbett.
No.
Mr. McDonnell.
No.
Ms. Maureen McDonald. Mr. Dexter.
No.
Mr. Holm.
No.
Mr. Manning McDonald.
No.
Mr. Gaudette. Mr. Smith.
No.
Mr. McCaskill.
No.
Mr. McEwen. Absent. Mr. McKinnon. Absent. Mr. Wilson.
No.
Mr. Sampson.
No.
Mr. Steele.
No.
Mr. DeVoe.
No.
Mr. Robert Chisholm. Mr. Estabrook.
Nay.
Mr. Epstein. Absent. Mr. Pye.
Absent.
Order, please. Mr. Boudreau.
Yes.
Those in support of the motion 22, those opposed 12.
Motion is carried.
Bill 36, entitled An Act Respecting Certain Financial Measures.
Order the bill be referred to the Committee on Law Amendments. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I move the House to now rise to meet again on the morrow at the hour of 12 noon. The House will sit from 12 until 8 p.m. The order of business following question period will be public bills for second reading, commencing with Bill number 45, the Insurance Act, amendments to the Insurance Act, and then continuing on with Bill number 1 and so on through the order paper. So, Mr. Speaker, I move we now rise.
Motion is the House adjourned until tomorrow at 12 noon. Is it agreed? All those in favor say aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion is carried. We're adjourned until 12 noon tomorrow.